At the end of World War II, the Third Empire was about to collapse. Hitler was running out of resources. He built a huge teleportation device on a small island off the coast of Scotland. He invited an evil wizard to start the God of War's Dusk plan. He intended to turn the war around. The time had come. The wizard left a book of spells to the female assistant. He gave her an immortal life force. Then he put on his mechanical arms and followed the spell. The gates of hell were forcibly opened. He awakened the ancient god of evil sealed in the void. Once the shackles were broken, the end of the world would come soon. Fortunately, the Allied assault team was caught by this conspiracy. The two sides fought fiercely. The officers who were wearing anti-poison masks were defeated by Hitler. His knife was as sharp as a dagger. The two stabbing knives in his hand drove the Allied army away. Even so, he couldn't go back to the sky. Because of a grenade, he was thrown into the air. The officer was blown to death by a violent explosion before he could stop it. A metal rod pierced his spine, and he died on the spot. The wizard was sucked into the void through the closed gate of hell. Although the teleportation gate was completely destroyed, Professor Ling Yixu in the Allied army was still uneasy. "I'm afraid that an alien creature has entered the human world through the teleportation gate." And the officer's corpse flew away under their noses. The professor was right. When the Allied army investigated this place, they found a red-skinned demon in the abandoned church. It was beyond everyone's expectation. It's not like a demon or a monster. Instead, it's just like a shy boy. The professor decided to adopt it and named it Hell Nanju. Many years later, Nanju, who grew up to be a typical man, joined the Supernatural Investigation and Defense Bureau under the professor's guidance. He specializes in defeating demons and eliminating demons. But the spiritual power incident that happened that day was not a small matter. When Nanju came to the scene, 6 guards were eaten by an old and ferocious monster. And a man sent Nanju away. Kill them all. Before Nanju came to his senses, he heard a low rumble. The man who walked out of the darkness was the melted corpse in the void. Nanju didn't know him. He wanted to pick up the gun and give it to him. But the corpse just disappeared. Nanju had to deal with the monster first. He used a special bullet to kill it. Then he pulled it to touch the high-pressure point on the subway track. It happened to be the weakness of the monster. And Nanju, who was invincible, was beaten to a pulp. Until the monster was burned to ashes, Nanju stood up. He used his burning hand to pick up a snowman without hesitation. And then he left the scene, but he didn't notice that a group of green light rose from the wreckage of the monster. And a part of the monster was about to come back to life. On the other side, a mermaid with superhuman power passed on what she saw to the professor. It turned out that the sorceress didn't die in the ship. Instead, she became the agent of the ancient evil god in the human world. She hid in an altar in the Antarctic Circle. And the missing spy, officer, and female assistant became familiar with the situation. So they used the blood of the fortune teller and the unlucky ghost to cast a spell on the sorceress's body. In order to make sure that the end of the world will restart smoothly, the sorceress used 1,000 angels' tears to make a rock. It brought back a part of the monster to life. They began to fall into the water in the dark. They were crazy. And the sorceress also fell into the water in the battle just now. Her arm was buried by the monster quietly. And she grew up very fast. She had to deal with the consequences. The sorceress led her team to go down to the water. After waiting for a while, the officers heard the sound. So they took the initiative to show up and lead the sorceress to the ambush point. Looking at the hell dog that was killed by her, the sorceress felt bad. When she was fighting with the monster, the coal source that rescued the sorceress was exhausted. The mermaid failed to get rid of the monster. Instead, she was attacked and seriously injured. Luckily, she escaped through the gap, and the officers followed her to commit suicide after solving all the coal sources. Her body was brought back to the Defense Bureau by the sorceress. After the research, the professor of the Defense Bureau was shocked. This guy is obviously an extremist. He didn't even use anesthesia, but covered his eyes and upper and lower lips. He just wanted to feel a little pleasure from the pain. The reason why he wore an anti-poison mask was to avoid infection. And his blood was already drained. His organs were also thrown away. Instead, he filled his body with magic sand. The function of replacing blood and nerves is to control the body. Who would have thought that the sorceress would have such a terrible will? The professor also found a piece of broken paper on his body. After solving the problem, he got a coordinate. He pointed to the 16th highway in Moscow, and the sorceress, who didn't know that he was awake, came to him. Of course, there was also the sorceress, Rasputin, who was manipulating all this. It turned out that he deliberately made the note. He needed an opportunity to lure Nanju out and reveal the future to the professor. It was a world shrouded by the end of the day. The blood was full of destruction, and the culprit was Nanju. The professor didn't believe it at all. He knew his son's temper the best. He put down the cross and died calmly. When Nanju came, there was only a cold corpse left. Since then, Nanju has never said a word again. The fist in his neck has never been released. In addition to being furious, he also has endless self-blame. Because the night when the professor was in trouble, the disobedient Nanju ran away from home again just to see his lover in his dream, Li Sai. They were childhood sweethearts, but they never got together. Li Sai has had a strong superpower since he was a child. But once out of control, he will hurt the innocent, causing him to blame himself too much and lock himself in a mental hospital. This has been going on for 20 years, and he swore not to contact anyone again. Until today, the knot in his heart has not been untied. So Nanju ran away every time to accompany him. But if the disobedient professor stayed in the defense bureau, he wouldn't have killed his father. Looking at the disobedient Nanju, Li Sai decided to accept his love. Nanju soon recovered from his grief. The director of the defense bureau followed the professor's lead and led a team to the 16th Avenue outside Moscow. But the destination was too vast. It was easy to find the hidden spot of Rasputin. Nanju opened the tomb and awoke a corpse. Under his leadership, everyone came to the complicated underground tunnel, which triggered the hidden mechanism and forcibly divided them into two teams. Nanju and his team just stepped on a stone bridge, and the iron gate behind them closed instantly. Then the big hammer came and hit the iron gate. The corpse also fell into the abyss. Nanju first threw the director into a safe area, and then completely collapsed on the stone bridge and dug into the closed iron gate. At this time, the killer's enemy was in danger. Nanju caught him, and he was a dead man. After that, he threw a net full of sharp thorns, and then used a giant gear to press it into an iron wall. But Li Sai and Tan Yuan accidentally walked into the Hell Dog's den. There were too many of them. Nanju heard the sound below and began to hit the ground crazily. He forced the channel to block their body. However, if the Hell Dog kills one, it will resurrect into two. The more you kill, the more. Li Sai quickly let Tan Yuan slap himself. It turns out that he had to be hurt to activate the superpower. He could only see the blue holy fire all over his body. The countless Hell Dogs turned into ashes in an instant. The ashes were so strong that Nanju, who ignored the flame, was also in a coma. When he woke up, Rasputin used a magical shackle to suppress Nanju. Then, when his face sent Li Si's soul to hell, Nanju had no choice but to obey Rasputin's order to save him. When the moon was down, Nanju said his real name. "I can't do it." The sound was just down. The shackle was released automatically. Nanju's chicken feet grew out again. The hellfire was lit on his head. It turned out that his Kylan arm was the key to the end of the world. It was called the right hand of destruction. Nanju put his right hand into the stone cup without hesitation. A powerful spiritual force rushed out. A transmission door was torn open on the surface of the moon. The sealed evil dragon god broke through the crystal shackle and was about to go to the human world. Tan Yuan awakened the pure heart. The demon blood vessel was not all of him. Nanju broke the chicken feet. The transmission door disappeared with it. Nanju used the chicken feet to solve the problem of Rasputin.